Hello, hello, and welcome back to Business First Creatives Podcast. So, I am on day 12 of being sick, but I finally feel well enough and like my voice sounds nearly almost like me to where I decided to hop on and talk to Kinsey today because I am obsessed with all things Kinsey. And after this conversation, you will be too. So, my guest today is Kinsey Soderberg. And I know I don't normally do one of these like formal intros, but just hang with me, guys. She is an amazing human who talks about AI in a way that literally made me want to start using AI for almost every aspect of my business. And she has an amazing product called the Brand Blueprint. And I know I don't ever pitch someone's product at the beginning, but I want to tell you, we're going to talk about it at some point. And any of you who are trying to get a better first draft out of your AI content needs it. So I thought I'd say that at the top of the hour so that it wasn't awkward when we started like really going in heavy on her product in the middle of this conversation. Kinsey, welcome to my podcast.
Oh my gosh, Coley, thank you so much. And like back at you, lady. I'm fangirling over here at you as well. So thank you.
And I mean, Kinsey is not the closest person that I've ever interviewed, but it's a pretty close race. She is only 150 miles from my house, guys. And if I wasn't feeling so bad, I mean, I might have just driven down there and showed up at her doorstep and been like, let's record in person. Don't worry,
That
Kinsey.
would have
I'm not
been
going to do
so
that to you.
funny.
I
Yeah,
mean, sometimes I'm bold like that.
you're like, hey, I'm here. You have your podcast mic and everything. I'm like, oh, hey, I didn't clean, but you're cool with that, I'm sure.
I am. Oh my gosh. So the wall in my office is always clean, and I don't show anybody what the rest of my office looks like because it looks like a tornado hit every single day. And so the miracle would be if it was actually clean. Yeah.
Well, you guys, if you can see behind me right now, I'm pretty much living in a jungle here. It's like a mess of plants that are my husband's, actually. He doesn't let me touch them. And so I feel you with that, lady.
Oh my gosh. They're not even your plants, Kinsey. Oh my gosh.
I cannot. He like won't let me touch them because believe me, I've tried to keep plants alive and like it doesn't. He just has the green thumb, thank goodness. So I'm just
Okay.
along for the ride, following instructions. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like the equivalent of my husband cleaning everything in the house. Like everybody's always like, "Oh no, I clean the house." And I'm like, "No, if it was up to me, like our house would be like completely filthy all the time." My husband cleans the bathrooms, he does the dishes, he takes out the trash. I cook and destroy our entire kitchen, and then he comes behind me and cleans it. Hey, it's the tax. I made you food, you ate it, and now please clean everything that I destroyed. Please
Yeah,
and
that
thank you.
sounds like a pretty good deal you got going on there,
It
too.
is. All right, guys, we are going to jump into the conversation now because I do want to make sure, because I see this being a very long conversation as long as I can still speak. So I feel like something has changed in the last 90 days. Before, or maybe I'm just paying more attention. I feel like before, I was seeing random things on the internet about you should be using ChatGPT for your business. And in December, I created my first custom GPT, which helps like creatives and other people create workflows in Dubsado, which was the original version. You answer a few questions and my GPT spits out an entire ready to plug in set of workflow actions and triggers with, Dubsado language and everything. And I was really proud of myself. But I also feel like when I did that, even though I knew that business people like you and I were using it, it didn't seem like it was everywhere. But I think like now, if I go into Instagram in the morning, my feed is filled with at least 6, 7, 8 ads of people saying, don't use Chat GPT. This is what you should be doing instead. And then they're basically just trying to get you to buy their prompt to use Chat GPT. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of bullshit. But I also feel like this is the perfect time to really start talking about ChatGPT and using it in meaningful ways in your business because the shit is everywhere.
It truly is. I mean, it's like the snowball that is like really snowballing in those old cartoons where like it's
Yes.
super, super huge and stuff. And for sure, and there's a reason for that, right? It's because AI truly is here. It's like pretty much the new internet, except even bigger and more awesome, and also growing so much more quickly. And it's kind of one of those things more and more people are realizing, okay, I got to hop on board with this. I got to start dipping my toes in and getting curious. And yeah, exactly like you said, there's definitely more and more people who are coming out as the quote unquote AI experts and stuff and offering up different things. And so I think it's one of those things you really need to just get curious about it, and then also realize that like you are totally allowed to find your own way of working with these tools, using these tools. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of noise out there. There's going to be a lot of people telling you you're doing this wrong, or oh my gosh, you need to be doing this. But I've
Mm-hmm.
always adapted that mindset of, guys, let's figure out how we can make things work for you in a way that aligns with you. And actually, that's the approach I take to AI. So that's a great
Mm-hmm.
transition there.
It is. And I think the thing about ChatGPT in particular, since it was the first major one that came out, I mean, now we have Claude, we have several other large language model AIs for us to work with, but ChatGPT is still like top of mind for most people. But I feel like there are a lot of people who were curious when ChatGPT first came out. And so they gave it a shot, and everything that came out of it was absolute crap. You would tell it to do something, it would repeatedly do the thing that you told it not to do. I mean, it still does that sometimes now, but it's better. I mean, you can instruct it to please stop using the rocket emojis, please, for the love of Jesus. So I mean, there are ways and there are better uses now, but I feel like there's still a large population of business owners and just people, everyday people, who tried it in the beginning and found it lackluster. And so now that everybody's back on like this chat GPT AI, train, if you will, and saying, oh no, it's best and it's great and everything, they're very skeptical, because when they tried it initially, which was like 1,000,001 iterations ago, it gave them crap. And now they just don't trust that it's going to be different now. So in the time that you've been working in AI, because you have been working in AI a lot longer than I have, what kind of changes have you seen to where business owners, no matter where you are, should give it another shot, because things are so much better now than when ChatGPT debuted? I mean, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
2.5 years ago now.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. Of course, so many things have happened. There's been so many updates. There's been so many more new tools and models that have come out and different things. So, not only have most of these tools gotten way, way better in
Way
general,
better.
but also there's so many more options to where if you found something frustrating or you couldn't find what you were looking for a year ago, it's pretty likely that it's actually out now and or doing a way better job now. But it is kind of funny. I mean, I think that a lot of the tools have gotten better with like language. Also, they have more training, right? And more people are using the tools, which actually most AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude are trained by user data. So, like when more people use the tools, then, well, the tools get better at
Hmm.
the things that they do, right? Which is awesome. So, definitely the tools have gotten better at understanding language and stuff like that, and being able to think creatively or think more logically, or different models are better for different tasks and stuff. But I will say, one of the things that's kind of funny is, I mean, we're going to talk about the AI brand blueprint method, and that is one of those things that has always been true from the beginning. Is one of the biggest mistakes people make when using these tools is not training their AI assistant enough in the beginning,
Hmm.
right? Like not telling it all the things that it needs to know about you, about your business, about the task that you want it to help you with, in order for it to be able to do a better job for you or a good job for you. And so while these tools are so much better and improving, at the same time, there's always that like initial mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to just plugging a prompt into the tool without telling it any context so that it can actually do a good job for you. You know what I mean?
I do, because if you and I asked ChatGPT the exact same question and we didn't give it any context about you and I, it might give us very similar answers.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I run very different businesses. We are very different people. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is just an example of, if you just ask it a question, what you're going to get back is the most generic non-helpful thing that it can give you, or it thinks it's being helpful, but it's not actually being as helpful as it could be specifically for you. And so we keep saying these things like training. Can you give a brief, like what you mean by training? Because I've had a couple people on the podcast and we've talked about AI. And the funny thing was, it wasn't for me until I think it was Sarah Gillis was on the podcast, and she's a copywriter. And she said, no, you should train your AI like an intern. That was when it finally dawned on me. I started talking to it way differently. I started not getting upset when it didn't do what I asked it to do. It's like, okay, if I gave anybody, any of the contractors that work with me, if I gave them a task and they didn't do it right, I would come back and tell them what they did wrong and tell them where they didn't meet my expectations and give them the help that they need to learn how to do it more like me better, so that the next time that I ask them for this exact same task, I don't have to go through that again. But I wasn't thinking about ChatGPT like that. So once that clicked for me, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But Kinsey, just a general, what does it mean to train your AI assistants?
Yeah, you hit on something huge right there. And actually, that's an example that I totally like to use as well, is like think of it as a human intern, right? Imagine that human intern, you hire them, it's their first day on the job. They walk in the door all shiny faced, excited to do the work, and you go, write me a social media caption. And like that poor human intern would be like, okay, and like try, but would probably not do a very good job because you didn't tell them anything about your brand, your business, your how to write, your writing style, your strategy for social
Mhm.
media, right? Like they would try to write a caption, but they would not have any knowledge about how you want them to do that, or like what is good or what you want it to look like, all those things. And the same thing goes for your AI assistant. Like it is trying to do the best job for you with the context that you give it. And so the more context you give it, the better. But exactly what you said, I always encourage people to make that mindset shift if you can, to think of your AI assistant as if it were a human, that you were like messaging on Slack or something, right? Or like messaging in Voxer, because it's really awkward because yeah, it is a robot. You're talking to a robot and you're like, this is kind of weird. But like if you can get over that hump and just think of it as a human, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an assistant. Like, yes, if you want AI to help you with a task of some sort, I always like to think of like a human assistant or intern. How would I message this person? And then like, how would I have a conversation with this person about the stuff that they're doing for me, right? But same thing goes for if you want to brainstorm an idea with ChatGPT, try to think of it as like a business coach. What if you were emailing or messaging back and forth with a business coach? Or if you like to use AI for mindset stuff, I always like to be like, think of it as if you were complaining about life to your therapist, like talk to ChatGPT as if you were talking to a human. Get that conversation going back and forth, realizing that like the more you iterate, the more you go back and forth, like the closer you'll get to where you want to be. And yeah, the cool thing is that that will totally get you better responses from the get-go from your AI tool, because you're giving it the context, because you're correcting it or suggesting something else, or kind of working together in a collaborative way. But also, AI will be able to pick up on your vibe, your language cues, and kind of be able to talk to you back and like mirror back your communication
Mhm.
style to you, which then just makes it easier and makes the conversation flow better, and also allows it to actually kind of produce content that sounds a little bit more like you down the road too.
And these conversations are so important. And I do feel like that is one of the biggest things that's changed, at least since what I saw ChatGPT as in the first iteration to now, is memory,
Mhm.
projects, being able to write your custom instructions, being able to create a brand blueprint, which lives in your account. ChatGPT is making it easier to get better for us, because now you don't have to reprompt it with a conversation that you had 2 months ago because it can't remember the instructions that you gave it. Like memory. I mean, when I got that notification, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to have to repeat myself for this thing again. And, never say never, guys. You do sometimes have to remind it of
Mhm.
certain things. But in general, I think that through the creation of projects, where everything that goes in a project, it can look at the other conversations within that project. You can give it specific instructions within that project. And then everything that is produced in that project takes all of that into context without you having to waste the time every time you want to get started to give it all of that information back again. So we've talked about talking to your AI like it's a human. It makes it easier to have these conversations. And also making sure that you're giving it all the context that it needs, all the training, so that it knows what you are trying to get from it. And it's not trying to throw everything at you and hope that the right answer was somewhere in all that stuff that it, threw at you.
Yeah, yeah. And what you said about it like improving its memory and also like developing systems to be able to train it in that repeatable way is so important. Some funny thing about the memory feature, when it first came out, a lot of the AI gals, that are in my community and stuff were like a little hesitant to use the memory feature because they're like, I have random ass conversations with this tool. They're like, I don't know if I want my memory to remember like that I Googled like the most random thing. Or like me, I'm always like just taking walks. Like we went to California the other week and like there was this random blue blob jellyfish looking thing on the beach and I like took a photo of it. I was like, what is this, ChatGPT? And I was like, you don't have to update the memory for that, because like,
Mm-hmm.
that's super random. But so like sometimes people are nervous to like have the memory feature turned on and stuff, which is basically just this kind of universal brain like memory for your conversations. And it is funny, it's not exactly perfect. It is like if you
Yes.
were having a friend, you had a friend and you had lots of conversations with a friend and the friend kind of is remembering your conversations, right? So it's kind of cool to think about it like that. But some people are nervous to have it turned on because they're like, I really want to control what my AI remembers and stuff. And if that's you, that's totally cool. But for me, I have found that especially over time, keeping that memory feature turned on has been so wonderful because exactly, it's not exact. It's not going to take like the random blue jellyfish blob that I looked up and like
Mm-hmm.
run with it forever when it's creating like business content for me or anything like that. But it does like give it a fuller picture of you as a human so that it can like pull in little nuances of conversation that you've had here and there and bring it into whatever you're working on that day. For example, I started a hobby recently creating bead jewelry, bead earrings. It's one of those
Mm-hmm.
things that I've had a lot of fun with, and I never would have made time for it before using AI tools, right? But I've been talking to my AI assistant about my bead jewelry because I was like brainstorming little cute names for different designs and stuff like that. And so it knows I've started this beading hobby. But it doesn't think that I have like a beading business in like every piece of content that it creates for me, but it will pull in funny little storytelling pieces. Like when I'm writing a post for my AI business about how I'm saving time and finding more freedom to enjoy my life and stuff, it'll have little asides like creating bead jewelry. And I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT, you remember. It's like kind of this fun thing. So the memory feature is so, so awesome. And I do think it is so great to have kind of strategy documents like the AI brand blueprint that like host your kind of brain for a specific project for your business or for a client or something. Like having these,
Mm-hmm.
they're called knowledge bases in the AI world, guys, is really helpful for repeatedly training your AI assistant on like very specific things again and again and again.
Yeah, it didn't dawn on me, but I should say this. One of the downfalls I would say about memory is if you are someone working in your AI tool for your clients, I often have to tell it, listen, we are not writing content for Coley James today. We are writing content for, and give them that and say something like, please make sure that you're not referencing my AI brand blueprint. I mean, I do it in projects. And so there are other ways to, but in general, if you're doing heavy client work, you might want to start by saying, we're about to do work for this client. Please don't use any of this information to update my memory because you don't want it to start, taking bits and pieces from that and it doesn't apply to you. I will say, I don't buy a lot of specific AI tools. I consider your AI blueprint to be different. But I do pay for one custom chat GPT. I pay a monthly fee. It's from someone who coaches on ads and funnels and all this stuff. And it's funny to me because every time I start a new conversation, sometimes I forget that I have to remind it that it's me. So if I'm asking it for offer strategy, it will start telling me things about creating things for ManyChat DMs and automations. And I'm like, hey, I'm an automation person, but not that kind of automation. And then I have to feed it my information and be like, please remember you are doing stuff for me, Coley James, and not the creator of this GPT. And so it is just, it doesn't happen very often because I mean, I do a lot of conversations and I almost always remember to upload my stuff. But, you have to also keep that in mind that if you're getting tools that were trained by someone else, you have to make sure that your information is what it's using when it's necessary. Because, of course, I want it to use her strategy. But when you're giving me the offers and you're giving me the language for the content, I don't teach people how to use ManyChat. That's not my God-given gift. I don't do that. And so that is one bad thing, or that is one thing to consider when you have memory on, is to make sure that your stuff is like over here in this bubble. And when you're working on things for other people, you don't necessarily want that to invade your memory.
Yeah, totally. And guys, we're getting a little bit like nerdier here and stuff, which like is so great. But for sure when you start using AI tools, it is a good idea to like just have an understanding of like what the limitations are for the different features, or just figure out, okay, what feature makes the most sense for me to use. So for example, yeah, a custom GPT only has its own memory, right? And the chats that you create with any custom GPTs do not talk to each other,
Nope.
even if you create multiple chats with it, like from the same custom GPT, right? So, yeah, exactly. Like, anytime you're using a custom GPT, remember, what do I need to tell this thing? It doesn't have my full chat memory. And that is why I love the AI brand blueprint, because it's like, okay, like I can use this with any AI tool, with any custom GPT. Like it's just awesome to have that like created. And then you can be like, okay, this is going to make everything else so much faster. But I will say, I love, oh, we can totally get into like projects versus custom GPTs, girls, because I know you got some thoughts. But
We're
like,
going to come back around to that after we talk about creating a
brand
blueprint and how to train. Yes.
yes, but just to say, like, I actually do like to use custom GPTs for my client work because of
Yes.
that, right? So like that actually makes it easier. But like, yeah, anytime that I am doing stuff within my own business, I like to just use my own ChatGPT because it has that memory, right?
It has your blueprint information loaded into it. So one of the reasons that I brought up memory was, okay, so I'm going to take you guys back. You guys all know Kara Duncan is my blog writer, and she did an episode on her podcast where she was ranting and absolutely raving about Kinsey's brand blueprint. And so, of course, y'all know, I was like, ooh, $100. It's more than that now, but it was $100 when I bought it. I was like, ooh, let me go buy this. I went and I bought it and I opened it and I was like, oh, wow, I don't have time for this right now. So Kinsey's process is so thorough, but guys, it does take like 3 to 4 hours to get it done.
Mhm.
So I opened her blueprint and I was like, love this. I don't have time for this right now. I was like, but you know what? I have been doing so much work recently in ChatGPT, loading in blog posts, loading in podcast episodes that I had recorded. I mean, just emails that I had written. I had been doing so much work. I was like, I wonder what ChatGPT will spit out for me if I ask. And so I, said, hey, ChatGPT, I bought this product. Here it is. I don't have time to do this right now. I was like, but the concept is really good. I was like, if you were going to take a first stab at making a brand blueprint for me, what would you do? And it spit out something that I will say I thought was absolutely spectacular in that moment. I mean, it nailed my voice. It had all of the offers that it knew about, the freebies. I mean, it had basically done a lot of what was in your blueprint without knowing what was in your blueprint. It was amazing. Oh, because I hadn't fed it your document yet. That came later.
Mm.
Initially, I was just like, here's the concept. Give me one. And it gave it to me. And I was like, okay, this is really good. And then every time I started creating content, every time I made a custom GPT, I loaded my own, I would say homegrown, but it really wasn't homegrown, Chat GPT version of a brand blueprint. And I used that for like a month. And I think that my first draft of my content got so much better. And then what happened was I had a little pocket of time. And so I was like, you know what? I should probably take a stab at this again. And then you announced that you were doing one of your get it done weeks. And I was like, oh, that's motivation. Okay. So I put every hour for the 5 days on my calendar. And I said, okay, I'm going to join. I'm probably not going to talk to anybody, but I'm going to actually work on this while I'm on there. And day one, you were going prompt by prompt, telling us, brainstorm this. And then, when that was finished, you were telling everybody, okay, now you're going to go through and use the prompts and build your blueprint step by step. Well, when we got off that call, I took 2 more hours and did the whole thing. And then I looked at what the brand blueprint had created and I was like, oh no, this is so much better than what ChatGPT gave me initially. But I didn't have the knowledge to know how much more in depth what you gave us in the brand blueprint was. So, and I've actually said it in a couple of episodes now. I've written it in a few blog posts. If you're trying to take a first stab at it and you have enough content on your own, ChatGPT will give you a really good first draft, first run of a brand blueprint. But the thing that I love about your brand blueprint is that you basically took, if you were going to create it for someone, you basically ask people to do all of the brain dumps. And it doesn't even, I know some people, when you ask them to do a brain dump, they're like, yeah, but I still don't know what to say. Guys, mine was the most incoherent, incorrect grammar that you would ever, I was just typing and I didn't fix anything. Mm-hmm. And it still worked amazing. So I love that you took what you would have done if you were building this for me as a paid offer and you put it all into your brand blueprint. And while 3 to 4 hours seemed extremely daunting when I first bought it, by the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have done this a month ago when I first bought it, because I was thinking, oh my God, my content would have been so much better had I done this. So the brand blueprint is not the first thing that you created. Kinsey, what was the first product that you actually created and sold related to ChatGPT?
Oh, yeah. So actually, yeah, I started with an AI brand persona mini course, right? So yeah, and then it grew from there. And I'm laughing because it is funny how offers end up developing, right? But literally the biggest problem that everyone has when it comes to using ChatGPT is ugh, it just doesn't sound like me.
Sound like
right?
me.
Yeah. And honestly, we get frustrated because we go back and forth with it being write me a caption. It comes out really generic or professional sounding. You're make it more friendly. And then it ends up being overly cheesy and stuff. And you go back and forth with it and you end up feeling you just could have done this faster if you did it yourself, And so the original course that I created was focusing mostly on brand voice and writing style, which is just so, so huge for getting AI to actually write content that sounds like you, right? And I have 2 different methods you can use depending on if you already understand your brand voice pretty well and you write copy that sounds like you already, or if you're one of those people who are I don't really know what my brand voice is, don't worry guys, we can still figure it out for you, right? But yeah, training your AI assistant on your brand voice and writing style is so amazing for getting it to write content that sounds like you. But then what happened was that, there's so much more to you as a human, and that feeds into the way that you write content, right? That then you really want to train ChatGPT even deeper on a few different other strategies in your business in order for it to not just write content that sounds similar to how you'd write it, but also write content from your perspective and in a strategic way and stuff. So that's when the AI brand persona mini course turned into the big shebang AI brand blueprint. Yeah.
So is the brand blueprint pretty similar now to what it was when you first created it, or how has it grown as you've had more and more students go through it and give you these amazing testimonials and tell you how much better it has made not only the content that ChatGPT spits out. I will say that it wasn't just about giving me a better written email. I feel like I now have better conversations, particularly now that I have had to sit down and really flesh out my offer suite. That was the one thing that I was like, okay, no, Kinsey should probably talk about this more. You have this whole section where you're basically talking about all of your offers. And I think that something that someone typically goes to ChatGPT to do besides creating content is, okay, these are the things that I'm doing. Can you help me figure out what the next step is? Or I sell this, but I don't think people are ready for this. What comes before this? Well, ChatGPT can't help you figure that out if it doesn't have the full understanding of what your offer is, why you created it, what the features are, what the benefits are, all of that good stuff. So, I mean, I know that people talk about, oh, my content sounds more like me, blah, blah, blah. I was actually more impressed with the offer section than the brand messaging section. So I want to make sure that we talk about that on here because I think that that is like a key component that people are not talking enough about. But like, was that big chunk of the offer talk in the original, or was it more just brand persona, a little bit elevated to help it, get a better blueprint, and then the offer suite came later?
Yeah, I mean, actually, so I started with that brand persona mini course, and it kind of took you through the first three core strategies of your brand identity, your ideal customers, and your brand voice and writing style. And that really is like the core foundational piece of your brand if you want it to understand like who you are and be able to do things pretty well for you, right? And then actually, when I created the brand blueprint, which ended up being, yeah, that knowledge based document that makes it really easy to just repeatedly train your AI assistant again and again. The offer suite was already included in there, which
Okay.
is like really funny. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things. The last two strategies, guys, that are in your brand blueprint are the offer suite and your messaging, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that really rounds out your entire business brand strategy if you want to create a digital mini me, if you want to create an AI assistant that feels like it could be a human that's worked for you for 5 years and knows your business almost as well as you. But yeah, the offer suite is so interesting and important. And a lot of people don't think about sharing that with their AI assistant. But it's so important if you're doing anything in your business, really, from big picture strategizing, brainstorming, planning campaigns or content calendars or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
to even just writing a caption with a call to action that naturally leads to one of your offers or one of your free resources, right? And when ChatGPT understands your full, each of your offers individually, from your free resources up through all of your paid offers, how they work together, what they do, how they help people, it can hold all of that information in its big brain, really easily. And actually, I found that, yeah, it's helpful it's like way more easy for me to like plan launches and strategize in my business because alone I always had trouble holding all of that information together. You know what? Everyone knows what that feeling when you're like, feel like you're just sitting in the middle of a buzzing beehive of ideas and things and tasks and all, and you're like, my brain can't handle this. Well, guess what? Your AI assistant's brain can handle this and help you with this, and it's so freaking awesome.
It is. And like one of the things that I didn't really consider, first of all, I have too much stuff. I have been trying probably for a full year to simplify my offer suite, right? I'm like, I have all of these things. Do I really need all of these things? And after I created the offer suite part of the blueprint, I started asking ChatGPT different questions. Like, okay, look at my freebies and tell me which one would naturally lead into my course. Now that's a pretty, that's a question, right? But then I started to think, I talked about this on a different episode, listening audience, and I will make sure that it's linked in the show notes. But recently I had this epiphany because I created an everything page in my business. And
Mhm.
so now if people go to the everything page at the very top, it has all my freebies. And what I noticed was people were going in there and treating it like a buffet and getting 4 or 5 different freebies at once. And then it's like, okay, but did they really get anything from like one if they're getting all 5 at the same time? So I've been doing like a lot of internal thought. It's about to sound like it's woo woo and very deep, but I've been doing a lot of internal thought about all of these free resources that I have. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what is the best path to get someone excited about up leveling their client experience and perhaps doing one of my bigger 3 paid offers, which would be my course, my new done with you, and then my done for you. But I have all of these freebies like ChatGPT. Can you look at this and tell me what the best path is? Like, what should someone download first? And then what's the next natural step of what I should offer them first? Because what my plan is this summer is to basically take away all of that choice. And I want to go all in on a first step. And then right after that, I'm not even thinking I need to pitch you my paid offer yet. I need to offer you a second training so that each step that you take gets you closer. And honestly, it's not even about paying me. It's about getting you closer to seeing how important systems are in your business and what the next step you can take is. But it wasn't until I created that offer part that I was like, oh, ChatGPT could totally help me with this. And I haven't gotten to the point to where I actually feed it the data. That's my next step. Hey, these people all got this freebie first. And then this is, I mean, like I have all this data in Airtable. So that's like my next step. So I'm, going on the path to simplification. But I think that when ChatGPT first was able to look at the internet, I was taking the shortcut. Every time I was doing something, I was like, hey, here's the sales page for my course. Look at here. And, I would ask it questions or whatever. But once I really figured out that it could help me synthesize all that and really put together my messaging and put together my offer suite and help me understand the entire ecosystem of how everything comes together, things that, I have it in my brain because clearly I created all these things. But, we all hold so much stuff in our brain now. It is easier to give ChatGPT all of the information and be able to come back and ask it very specific questions. So that was like the other little tidbit that I got out of the offer suite part.
I love that so much. And see, this is where it just gets so exciting and fun and motivating to work with AI, right? Because, like, I just think about all the places in my business in the past 4 years before I started using AI tools where I would just feel overwhelmed. I would feel stuck. I'd feel like, oh, there's something there, but I can't get to it. Or like my brain can't compute. It would take me like 2 weeks to like mull over an idea and like it's forming and it's coming, but like, but now with ChatGPT, it's so easy to ideate and like get to the places faster. You're getting to the places that you would have gotten anyway, only faster, probably a little bit better and more optimized if
Mm-hmm.
we're honest. And like it's just really really wonderful. And I think especially for women who are kind of like carrying more of a load in our society in general, at home, at work, all the things, like our brains are already so overloaded, and like an AI
So
assistant is
overloaded.
so freaking helpful. I love it. And oh my gosh, by the way, side note, we should totally nerd out later about connecting Airtable and your AI tools in like automations. Because girl, I've been playing
Mm-hmm.
around with that lately, and Airtable is like really easy to do that with. Yeah.
It is. So I know that you are like firmly in the ChatGPT world, and honestly, I am too. But I feel like the other part of the conversation, we're seeing all these ads, all these AI gurus. I'm doing air quotes if you can't see me on the video, guys. We have that part of the conversation, but it feels like to me the other part of the conversation is that now AI is getting infused into all of the business tools that we were using anyway. Like
Mhm.
I will never forget the first time that I recorded a Loom video after they integrated the new "it will write your title for you." I recorded the Loom video, I hit stop, and as I'm like, getting myself, I'm about to type my title and change it, it started changing it in front of me. And I was like, what the hell is this? So, that was one of those moments where I was like, and hey, that title was pretty good. But of course, it didn't know that if it's like a client recording or it's a course recording, like I put something as a prefix and then I have a descriptor. And then in some cases, I put the date because those things get outdated very quickly. And I
Mhm.
always need to be able to reference, when it was last recorded, blah, blah, blah. But when I saw it do that, I was like, that's cool. You know what I really wish? I wish I could give it my nomenclature. I wish I could tell it my
Mhm.
structure, and then it would probably do a better job. And of course, you can't do that in Loom. So, or at least you couldn't when it first, came out. So that was one example of a tool. And
Mhm.
then now, like for example, for any of you guys that are HoneyBook users, you guys will know all of the different AI tools that it's put in there. It now, if it's time for you to email a client, like if it feels like, hey, this is your prompt, you haven't emailed this client in 3 days, you might need to follow up, it will now write a first draft for you. Have I been impressed with the draft? No. Because I just feel like in ChatGPT, if it has my brand blueprint, if it has all of this information about me, it will write a better first draft for me. But now they have unlocked learning. And so every email that you are writing, it is learning your style. So, I imagine that those first draft emails are going to get better. But
Mhm.
Kinsey, the reason that I'm giving you all of these examples is I am one of those people where I kind of want total control. And that's what I like most about ChatGPT. I
Mhm.
can write the instructions, I can give it all the information. And when I ask it what I want, it's giving it to me in a format that I need. How many freaking note takers do you need? There are now like hundreds. I mean, there's so many note takers. And I can't really use what any of them give me because it doesn't give it to me in a way to where my brain can take it and immediately implement it. So, of course, one of the custom GPTs I made for myself was it takes my strategy calls and it gives it to me in a particular output. But I'm giving you all of this context, Kinsey, before I ask you this question, because how do you see the role of AI being infused in all the tools that we already use versus using a, separate Claude chat GPT in order to create something more custom for yourself? Like, do you think that the AI versions that we're getting in these tools are ever going to get to the point to where they are as good as what we could create custom by ourselves? Or, I mean, how do you see these two evolving? And do you think that there's perhaps different people that would prefer different ones?
Oh man, I love this conversation so much. And this is such an important thing. I was laughing over here because I'm totally that person too. That's why I do everything I do the way I do it. And the brand blueprint stems from me wanting to have control and wanting to, because also, I mean, it's not just about perfectionism or control or anything like that. It's more so about saving time, right? And not
Yes.
feeling that frustration of going back and forth and feeling like you could have done it faster if you did it yourself. I'm a proactive person where I'm like, let me just create a system where I can get what I want from the get go, right? Like, I don't want to deal with like, could it do a good job? Sure, maybe, but like, I'm just gonna do the thing in the first place that will get me the best result possible, like, and so I can hit the ground running, right? And so, I'm like you. I do think that these tools are evolving, and again, like this whole conversation has been about, like they've gotten so much better in the past year, and they're going to continue to get better. But there is kind of that frustration of where are we right now? And like, how
Mm-hmm.
can I be productive with my AI assistant in the best way? Which is why I actually developed the brand blueprint method, which is having that external knowledge base where you host all the things about your business and you can pretty much use that to train most
Wherever.
AI
Mm-hmm.
tools, right?
Except the ones that are integrated in other. I will say that though. Like that's the problem.
Yeah,
You
that's the
gave me this
problem.
wonderful brand blueprint and I can't put it in Honeybook.
And you're like,
Yes.
Honeybook, get your shit together. But like, no, for sure. I'm one of those people where I like tend to create my own systems in the way I want to create them, right? So same thing for me. I am creating my podcast bot that writes my show notes in
Mm-hmm.
exactly the format that I want. And I'm using ChatGPT to do that. And it's an extra step because I'm exporting my transcript from
Yes.
Descript, uploading it to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT is writing me my show notes.
Same,
Um,
same, girl.
can Descript write the show notes for you? Yes, it can.
Yes,
Does
they
it do a
suck.
shitty job? Yes, it does. And it's harder to work with ChatGPT, right? So I guess my answer to you for this, like, kind of question of figuring out like how do we use these tools and like the internal integrations that don't do a great job, like should you use those, or is it worth the extra step to like create your own system with an external tool where you have more control? Like, I always, again, just encourage people to decide for yourself, how do you want to use these tools and what is the expectations for you as far as using AI tools in your business and the output that you want to get, right? And we have to do this in our businesses anyway, but like when it comes to AI, I just want you to be intentional and get curious and set guidelines for yourself, and that's going to be helpful if you have team members using AI tools too
Mm-hmm.
for you, right? Because what when it comes to me and my expectations, and I have different expectations for different tasks in my business, right? Do I go to ChatGPT for the show notes? Yes. But like, is show notes something that I really care about? Like, no, not that much. You know what I mean? But I still will get ChatGPT to write my show notes. But actually, I don't edit my show notes that ChatGPT writes for me as much as I would edit an Instagram caption or an email I'm sending out, right? Because I have different levels of expectations. But like, really just stepping into that CEO role, and thinking, okay, what are the guidelines that I'm going to set for myself? Like, when is it okay to use the internal integration of an AI tool where I'm not that happy with the output, but it's fine, right? And it's
It's
not going
good
to make
enough.
it's good enough. And it's not going to make a huge impact in like my bottom line or my relationships with my clients or anything like that, right? And where do I want to take the extra step and like use a different AI tool or do like a little bit extra to the process and like make sure that the output that I'm giving is awesome. The funny thing is, I always remind people too, is like, you're still saving so much time, right? Like
Time.
me taking my transcript from Descript for my podcast, throwing it into ChatGPT, does that take like an extra minute or two maybe than if I just had Descript write the show notes? Yeah, but like, am I still saving probably a good 20 minutes to then trying to like write the stuff myself? Yeah, like that's way better. So yeah, does that make sense what I shared?
It does. And it's funny. I wouldn't have even thought to bring up Descript. I just wouldn't have. But it's really interesting that you say that because Descript will now write your show notes. It will highlight clips that you could turn into Instagram Reels, TikToks, blah, blah, blah. It will give you quotes that you could, specifically put on your Instagram show notes. I'm trying to think of what else is, because it's Overlord for anyone that's listening. That is the AI tool inside of Descript. It's so ridiculous. I don't know where they came up with that
So
name.
funny.
But
They're nerds.
when
That's where they came up with it.
but when I think about all the things that it does, I would honestly rather get the transcript, put it in ChatGPT, and write a custom GPT in order to give me those things, because there are specific things that I look for when I want it to pull, 60 seconds so that I can put it on Instagram. And if it doesn't give you what you want, I mean, the nice thing about having it in like ChatGPT, if there's a specific thing that you and I talk about, for example, on this podcast episode, and I'm like, hey, I know I talked a lot about the offer suite. Can you pull that and find a clip that I'll be able to share on Instagram? And if I don't like the clip, or if the clip ended up being too long, I can tell ChatGPT, okay, I want to record a new short form video talking about this. I need it to be less than 60 seconds. Can you give me a script? And then it will give me a script. And guess what, guys? That script is already written in my voice. It's already talking about the things that I like to talk about. But the base is it's using a transcript that is my words when I was talking. So it's like layer on layer on layer. It's me and then me and then me. And then it's taking that and it's giving me new words to actually record a new video. But like that is going to be so much better than if I just asked it, hey, I want to talk about how you can use ChatGPT to help you analyze and synthesize your offer suite. Can you write me a 60-second script? If one of you took that and put it in ChatGPT without any other context, what you get is going to be very different than what I get when it's using my podcast transcript as the base. But like, I'm one of those people, every time a tool comes up with a new AI feature, I go look at it. And if it's something that I want, I go run to ChatGPT and write my own version and just put it in whatever like pipeline I've got going. Because yes, my podcast pipeline at this point is very extensive in all the things that it does. But that first step of getting the transcript from Descript and copying it over, I mean, we're not even talking about this, but the transcript itself was written by AI, right? I mean, consider if any of us were trying to actually write a transcript and we were listening to the podcast and literally transcribing it by typing. That sounds so ridiculous now at this point.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, I am just amazed every day with how I actually did the nerdy math for like how much time I'm saving every day, week, month with AI. And actually, I should probably redo the math because I did it about like 6 months, actually, probably a year ago now. And so it's probably I don't know, it changed. But back then, even a year ago, when I did the math realistically for how much time I was taking on average to do my daily tasks, my weekly tasks, my monthly tasks, such as podcasting, such as writing captions, all the things, I found out that I'm saving an average of 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, and 70 hours a month using AI tools, which is just like unbelievable for me to think about. But then after I did that math and I was like thinking back through my past year of how much more I've actually been able to
Mm-hmm.
do in my business as a solopreneur, all the offers I've put out, all the collaborations I've done, all the more showing up consistently I've been able to on Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
email and stuff. And I'm like, wow, I did do a lot, and it's been one of the things I always like to remind people too is that it's not just about like doing more quickly, right? It's also about actually finding that freedom and wiggle room to enjoy your life, which is why so many of us started businesses in the first place, right? Is to be able to kind of enjoy our life more or find more wiggle room to do the things we want. And so that's one of the things I always like to remind people as well is, yeah, we can totally do more, save time, and like actually create the life that we want to create too with the help of these tools.
It's really interesting. And this is like a really good place to end. But I do want to say one more thing. So I'm in someone's email marketing club, right? And she does reviews of emails. And I thought it was really interesting. I had submitted an email. So I was in a summit. No, I was in a bundle. I was in a bundle, and these people got one of my products. And then a couple weeks later, I put all of them through a flash sale for my course. And all of the emails were written by ChatGPT. Now, when I say all the emails were written by ChatGPT, of course, it had my blueprint, it had my offer blueprint, it had my messaging, it had everything amazing from Kinsey. And then I ideated this entire thing because it was for senior photographers. I ideated this whole thing where I explained one of the reasons that you need systems is because you are trying to impress two different clients, the parent who paid you and the actual like student that you took the photograph of. You've got two different people that you are trying to impress, that you are trying to get a good testimonial from because that was the product that they got from me. I'm like, I gave you the tools to ask your clients for testimonials, but here are the systems that you need in order to get better testimonials, which will up a level your whole business, like blah, blah, blah. But I took the time to like basically word vomit my opinions on systems in senior photography and how they're to clients. And then I had ChatGPT write me these emails. And did I go back and forth? I did. Like I changed some of them. I looked at the structure of, what email was going when. And I ended up taking one of those emails and submitting it for critique. And one of the first things that came back was that I had AI tails in my email. Like you could tell that it was written by AI because I did this use of emojis, the EM dash, like there were some other things. And I was looking at the feedback, and the first thing that I thought was, who the fuck cares? Do you care that I sent you an email that was written by AI? I honestly think those are some of the best emails that I've ever written, and written is in quotes if you're considering that ChatGPT wrote them. But they were very on brand. They got the point across. They hit, the pain points that they were feeling, why my systems were going to solve that, like all of this stuff. And I was like, I don't care if people knew that I wrote that with AI because it literally took me 30 minutes to write 7 emails for a flash sale, complete with links and like all of the stuff. But if I had actually sat down to write those emails, I mean, I imagine it probably would have been at least 2 hours, maybe 3, because I would have been so nitpicky about getting started. Once I had a first draft, I probably would have ripped that shit to shreds. I mean, just that is how I write when I write. And one of the benefits of ChatGPT is, like you said, does it affect my bottom line? It got me the emails. I am a much better critiquer than I am a starter. And so that is the thing that I really get out of the chat GPT is it's giving me these first drafts. I mean, I will say with your brand blueprint plus, me word vomiting some additional stuff that I need specific to that, it's like 80, 85%, sometimes 90% of the way there on, any given email. But it just really made me think, we're all going to be using AI soon. Like I don't know that there are going to be very many people left that are sitting down and writing stuff from scratch. So do I really care if they can tell that AI wrote it? And my answer is no. And I mean, listening audience, you are going to have to decide if you want to take the time. I mean, you can tell ChatGPT, sound human, don't do rocket emojis, don't use EM dashes. I mean, you can give it all of these instructions to try to get it to sound more human. But at the end of the day, those emails were done quickly. I got them scheduled. I mean, I didn't even schedule them. I sent them to my VA and I was like, here's the emails, schedule them. Here's the timeline. Thank you. I mean, so I spent 30 minutes, but in total, that was probably at least 4 hours worth of work. But so ChatGPT is like my new favorite business employee. It has passed Airtable, which you and I are going to talk about Airtable when we stop recording. But I am loving what I am getting from AI, and it really is allowing me to spend more time on other things. It's not that I'm trying to do more. It is that I am trying to do less and still get the same stuff out into, the world.
I could not have said it better myself, Coley. I'm totally with you there. And I think that, yeah, I think it's one of those things we need to get really honest with ourselves, guys. For example, one of the things that I used to get so pissed at myself for in my business is how freaking long I would spend writing an Instagram caption. And I would spend a good hour creating an Instagram post, writing the caption, all the things, and I would put it out into the world and it would get crickets. And or like
Yes.
maybe it'd perform kind of okay, but like the ROI wasn't there for how much time and energy I spent on that frickin' post when I could have been working on more money making tasks and
Mm-hmm.
stuff in that way, right? And like, and it was one of those things like I care. I care about the content I put into the world. And with AI, I can write an Instagram caption that I would have written myself anyway in
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes instead of an hour. And it's literally just having trained AI on my brand voice. It's having edited the content that it gave me, like right from the get go, which was pretty good. Like you said, 80% there. Takes me 2 minutes to change it up, and then we are good to go. Do I care if people know that I wrote this with AI? No, it's about the
Nope.
impact that the caption makes, or like the wiggle room that it gives me to do more things and like help more people. And so it's just really
Mm-hmm.
about getting honest with yourself. And I think that this is something that a lot of us need to shift is like internal shame or guilt or like fear of judgment from others using AI tools. Like, no, guys, we deserve to use these tools and like they truly can be helpful. They're here. Let's embrace them and let's help other women embrace them too.
Girl, yes. Kinsey, thank you for joining me on my podcast today. Guys, I know that this might have seemed like an infomercial when I was talking about her brand blueprint. It really is amazing. The link to buy it is going to be in the show notes. And I want to say if you've been following any of the AI episodes that I've done recently, I have really tried to steer away from telling you, like, I'm telling you what I'm doing in my own business. And I am very clear with you that, getting the chat GPT to sound more like me is not something that I did. I just took Kinsey's product and actually took the time to do it and then shoved it into every single one of my custom GPTs. And it is just the best thing since sliced bread. And I think you guys know that I do not say shit like that lightly. So if you want to hear more information, I didn't even tell you that Kinsey's brand is Authentic AI, but it's also going to be linked in the show notes. And she has two podcasts, y'all, two. And so if you would like to hear more about Kinsey's human first approach to AI, she is someone that you should definitely add to like your roster of podcasts, get on her email list, because she is who's going to keep you up to date on all of the changes when they happen in, the AI world. But again, Kinsey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Coley, thank you so much. And guys, Coley's going to be a guest on my podcast too. So we'll have to be sure to share that episode as well because I know it's going to be a freaking good one. I can't wait to geek
It
out about
is.
AI with you. But thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
It was great. All right, y'all. That's it for this episode. See you next time.